Welcome to A Friday Reads, where I talk about what I read, what I'm reading, what I hope to get to next, and I have started one of my most anticipated reads, which makes me quite excited. So yeah, let's get into it. Starting with, I finished the new Tasha Suri, and so I think last week when I was chatting, I'd maybe gotten 30-some percent, 40% of the way through, and then I finished it, and I like it. I don't love it as much as I do the Burning Thrones Kingdom. I think part of it is that I don't know, it's a standalone, and so you don't get to really spend a lot of time, but at the same time, part of me is like, but I didn't want it to be longer. So I think, in general, I had a character connection problem that I don't have with the Burning Kingdoms trilogy. I do really love the world building, though. Like, I have a lot of fun with it. It's a little bit better, actually, for me than the Burning Kingdoms world building, because in that one, I felt like it was teased to me, and I really wanted to understand so much more about it. Whereas here, I felt satisfied with the things I understood and didn't understand in terms of the storytelling magic and its repercussions. Like, the realm of possibilities felt grounded enough for me. It made sense when there were rules. It made sense when we were breaking rules. It all worked. So I really liked the world building and what it has to say about stories and how they shape a land and how a land can be affected when you're trying to curate or over control the nature of stories and how those can evolve and adapt over time. I loved everything thematically and world building about that book. And like I said, I feel like the thing that let me down just a tiny bit was I actually liked, I think, the characters individually, but I don't think I had buy-in into their tragic love story. I understood that there was some built-in tragic love story because that's the nature of this world, is where we have people who are reincarnations of different story tropes and people, and so their story takes over, and whether they like it or not, they are doomed to perform X role. And part of that for our main characters here is they are doomed to fall in love and be the demise of each other. But separate of that, they are their own people before the story takes over, and I don't know if I ever truly felt like their chemistry. And I feel like that was a big crux for a lot of the emotional beats. That said, there were other moments and character relationships that I did have a lot of buy-in to, a lot of platonic family focus that I really liked. So in general, I think it was pretty good for me. It was pretty good, just not as great as the Jasmine Throne. But honestly, considering it was medieval inspired fantasy, worked pretty well for me. So that was a good time, and I still love this audio narrator who is the same person who did the entire Jasmine Throne trilogy. But I will say, it reminds me of my issue I personally had with their debut, which was more of a fantasy romance situation, and I think I had a similar chemistry problem. So maybe if you loved that book, you might really love the chemistry in this book. Maybe that's the disconnect, because I have found there is a kind of a divide between people who love, I think it's Ember in the Ashes. Not Ember in the Ashes, that's a different author. It's a young adult series. It's called, I don't remember. Here's the cover. But this book, I know a lot of people who love this book and are lukewarm on the Jasmine Throne. And I know a lot of people who love the Jasmine Throne and are lukewarm on that book. So I'm curious where this Isle in the Silver Sea is going to land for people. I also did finally finish Remember You Will Die, which is so interesting. I read the author's note and the acknowledgments. This is definitely more of a general fiction, literary fiction author playing with speculative elements. Although while reading it, I didn't really know that. So that said, it's not like I'm trying to gatekeep, she can't write sci-fi. I think the sci-fi stuff she was writing was there, but in terms of the form, it makes a lot more sense a little bit, because I think something I was expecting was a tiny bit more of a loud payoff. If this was truly a genre fiction puzzly thing, I feel like it would have been a louder, stronger payoff. It reminded me more of payoffs I get with literary fiction. Neither one is better than the other. It was more of an expectations game issue for myself. So, and I do think I finally did figure out what it was about, and I think what it's about is kind of sort of written on the flap, but I do remember that being a cool moment when I figured it out. But I also just never feel like I felt the same catharsis as maybe the main character. And maybe the issue is this is not for character-driven people. I don't think it is. It's definitely very thematically on point in terms of grief, fatalism, how cycles repeat and evolve in terms of the relationship of capitalism and art and death. Because the premise of this is we have this AI entity, and it's not generative AI. It's a real individual person with consciousness who is made of code and is in a body that was not produced through organic reproductive means, okay? That's the artificial intelligence. And they do end up having a human daughter. And the story is, I think, them essentially and I say I think, because I feel like I'm still mulling over, like, what did I just read? They're processing the grief of losing their daughter. And so part of that is kind of them using their artificial intelligence to kind of mine all of these obituaries and definitions and mixed media to kind of comes to terms with, process, and understand. So there really is a lot of the cyclical nature of grief going on here, and how you kind of dive into certain stories and come out, and how these stories are kind of interconnected. So if you're someone who likes literary fiction like I do, I think you'll find this really interesting. I think if you're someone who doesn't normally spend time in that space, it's going to feel extra convoluted and maybe not in a way that feels like it's worth it. I love interconnected, complicated stories where I learn a bunch of names. This was pushing me to my limit. Like, if I spent more than like 12 hours between picking it up, it was hard for me to jump back in and remember, wait, who are you connected to? And so in that way, because these people are never actually like characters you spend more than 10 pages with, it can be really hard to keep connecting everything together on the fly. I wasn't keeping notes or anything. I largely did okay. But it's a lot of names. It's truly a lot of proper nouns, and you don't have a lot of the cues you normally have to keep track of a lot of proper nouns because you don't spend a lot of time with them. So definitely, I think reading this in as short a period of time as you are able to is probably beneficial for at least keeping track of the connective tissue, if that's something you care about seeing. I'm sure I've missed something because of that. But then also sometimes I'm like, there were ideas that were introduced that I kind of wanted to explore a bit more, but they weren't like the point of the story. Like and I think part of that, having read the author's note, is just how this was constructed and how this came together, which definitely, it wasn't super outlined or planned. It definitely doesn't feel like that necessarily, but it does explain why certain threads are continued and certain threads feel like they're kind of just dropped off. So yeah, it's very unique, very interesting. Not my favorite version of this. Like, I really wanted it to be like my thing, but I had a good time. I had a good enough time. It was definitely how I like to be pushed and like challenged when I read something like this. So in that way, it was interesting. Now though, I have started The Possession of Alba Diaz by Isabel Cañas. So like earlier this week, I posted my top 10 horror books, well, top 12-ish, and Isabel Cañas was on the list. I mean, I have really loved a lot of her books. I'm already really excited. So something I really like about her books is they deal with historical settings that I find interesting. Obviously, that just varies from person to person, but this one in particular is, I believe, 1500s? No, 1765. All right, so 1700s, and we are going, I really do believe it's in Mexico, but I don't know my Mexican cities well enough. It's Zacatecas, but there is a mine. And if you don't know anything about Central or South American history, there were a whole host of silver and gold and copper deposits that were mined. And it's honestly a large part of why there are still so many structural issues in a lot of these countries. And so we are diving into this rich family from Spain who owns this mine. And like all of her stories, we have characters who kind of straddle class lines and different racial lines. So Alba Diaz is adopted by this family from this mine. And presumably, I mean, it says possessed. I assume there's going to be a possession story similar to maybe like The Exorcism or something like that. It has to do with this mines and the history of this place and how the land's being, abused. I'm pretty excited about that thematically. But then there's always two characters in each of her books, and they're always going to have some sort of chemistry or tension or reliance on each other. It's just a thing that's going to happen. I don't need her to change that formula. And so here we have Elias. And Elias is a part of this rich family as well, but his parentage is not pure. And that's definitely something that's holding him back, but he has something his family needs to refine the silver, so that's how he ends up here. And we haven't gotten into the spook yet, but we're setting up our pieces. Like, I'm 60 pages in, we are getting into position. I'm excited. So yeah, and I just love how this book looks, and it's pretty much, like, at least it's doing its job in that I have a lot of work I need to do. Oh, I hate how much work I have to do. It's like, it's an uncomfortable level. I don't mind working a lot, but, you know, everyone has their threshold, and I'm in my currently uncomfortable amount of, like, hard work I have to do. But I'm excited to get to this, so it's kind of like my little treat. So it's like, okay, you got to get down XYZ, and then you can read this, and it's going to be very fun. So that's kind of both my audio and physical and whatever. Like, I'm just consuming this whenever I can consume it. It brings me a lot of joy. I don't know what I'll consume next. If I want to keep going down the spooky rabbit hole, I've got The Reformatory and I've got My Best Friend's Exorcism. So those are my, like, spooky reads. If I want to switch up to fantasy, I've got Paladin of Souls. One thing I didn't mention on my TBR that I might get to is a Mariana Zapata, not a self-pubbed one. I think it was picked up for Tradpol. It's like The Wall of Winnipeg and Me. I read contemporary romance with my friends, and this is one that won on the spinner wheel, and I've kind of wanted to read a Mariana Zapata. Like, I kind of have wanted to. So this kind of excites me, and if, like, after my brain goes burr, after all this work and grading I have to do, that might be a fun little tangent, because it's like, it wouldn't be so bad if I had my Friday to do my work like I normally do, but, like, the powers that be at my work want everyone at work to meet in the morning on Friday somewhere. And it's just like, oh, yay. It's going to be so useful, she says, with, like, so many exams she needs to grade and now no longer has that time. So now I will simply have to use other time. Like, teaching days off do not work the same as I feel like other jobs' day off. It's just like, no, I just simply need to find the time to do this now. Like, it's not like, oh, I just get to push everything forward. Like, that's just, oh, well. Anyway, so that's, like, a tiny bit of my stress, but it should be good. I'm just, like I said, I'm at least really excited about getting to this. In terms of shows, we're almost done with a new season of Wednesday. That has been delightful. We watched, like, 4 of them last weekend. And I don't know, really, we haven't done much else, so we've been watching What We Do in the Shadows, which is fun. We're in, like, the second to last season. And I am tentatively curious about maybe convincing Ryan to go to the movies with me this weekend. Like, there are 2 films, and I could see either one of them. Like, there's the new Frankenstein that I think will be in theaters this weekend. And then there's this, like, J-Lo movie that's, like, The Kiss of the Spider or something. I don't know, it's like a musical Latin Gothic adaptation. I don't know, I hadn't heard anything about it, and then I saw ads on my Instagram, and now I'm just like, huh, I'm, like, kind of interesting. The actor who plays Cassian and Andor's in it, and, like, that kind of intrigues me. So that's just, like, me and general media, and then getting back on my Smallville bandwagon, because I love it. That's all. I just, I love my superhero stuff. I truly do. But that's it for this one. If you just want to leave an emoji to let me know you're here. Is there a gravestone? Like, are there anything like that? Because, like, it feels spooky relevant, and also remember you will die. If there's not, then let's do something that's a silver color for the Isle in the Silver Sea. And otherwise, like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.